Howdy folks, Bluesboyjag here with yet another 3-string cigar box guitar lesson. We're playing a boogie in open G, and I'm using my fingers to play this. It's pretty funky. Let's get right to it. Open G, this is an A string tuned down to G, and a D string tuned normal to D, and a G string tuned normal to G. All right, this one's by request. Somebody said, play more John Lee Hooker style. So this is not necessarily a John Lee Hooker song, but it's pretty close to his style. So I picked up the CBG, and this is what popped out within about 10 seconds. So it's pretty close to a straightforward shuffle. I mean, it's definitely a shuffle, but it's a little bit funky. I'm using my fingers, but you can use a pick if you'd like. This is going to be easier with your fingers because so I'm using mainly my thumb and my first finger, and you're going back and forth between the thumb and first finger. I'm starting out here on the second string, starting with your thumb. Thumb on the second string, first finger on the first string. So if you look real close, thumb's on the second string, first finger's on the first string. So I'm starting over here on the second string, third fret. Then I'm playing the first string open, going back to the second and back to the first. Starting with the second. I'm also choking with the left hand, but we'll get to that in a second. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this. So here's the first way. I'm walking up from the second string, then I'm going to the first string, third fret. So I'm playing the second string on the third fret and the first string open. Starting with the second string, fretted on the third fret. Then you play that first string, third fret. Bend it up just a little bit. Two parts. Part one. Notice how I'm pausing slightly before I bend. It sounds kind of cool. Thumb on the second string, first finger on the first. The last note is the open G, bass note. I'm choking with the fretting hand. The last note is the open G, third string. make it real funky, start with an upstroke. Notice how my right hand is doing a down-up strum. The last strum is up, so it's down, up, down, up. And you can sort of kind of move around to any one of these notes. Open first string, and then the 3rd fret, 3rd string, open on the 2nd string, and then the 3rd fret on the 2nd, and open on the 3rd, and the 3rd fret on that same 3rd string. Notice how I'm lifting my fingers off, so I'm killing that note with these fingers. I'm not killing them with my fretting hand. You could if you want, but I kind of like it that way. It just feels natural to me. So I'm walking up from the 2nd string, 3rd fret, to 1 0, back to the 2nd string, back to the 1st. Now we add the muting, and we kind of give it more of a John Lee Hooker kind of a funky shuffle, I guess you'd say. I'm basically strumming down with my thumb and up with my first finger. I'm also using my nail on my first finger if I want to kind of brighten up the tone, like. If I use just my thumb, it's a little bit more muted. Now I'm going to use a combination of my thumb and my fingernail on my first finger. So I'm basically pretending like I have a pick in my finger, but I'm not. I'm using my nail on my first finger. So this is just basically one chord. We're playing a G chord, but we're adding some notes down here. So basically it's one chord. If you have another guitar player playing with you, he'd be playing a G chord, and your bass player would probably be playing a G note, or a kind of a funky G kind of a bass line. I'm also choking with this hand, like I said a minute ago. So what's happening over here, Jag? Real close, hard to see. Yep, so let's take it out here. The last note, of course, is your open 3rd string. You can play all 3 for that last note too. You don't have to just play that single low G. That choking on the strings with my left hand is a really important segment of this if you want to sound like John Lee Hooker. Now we're getting a little bit more fancy. I'm just doing some hammer-ons, and I'm pausing before I do the hammer, which means you can hear that note with my first finger on 1, 3 right now. You can hear that note before I hit that note. So in other words, it's a longer note. Instead of a, I'll give you an example. Again, first finger and thumb is all I'm using on the right hand. You can use however many fingers you want. Now I'm using my first finger nail for a pick. And what I'm doing is strumming down with my nail. So that gives me more volume. So I can go between my fingers to kind of bring the volume down. By the way, I should get a close-up of this, shouldn't I? Only my first finger and thumb right now. One more thing that I'm doing here is a hammer. So I'm doing an up strum on the top two strings, and my first finger's on 1 and 3, and I'm hammering to 1 5. Then I'm going to go back to 1 3. Make sure you pause for a split second so you hear ba-da-bow. Or not. You don't have to pause. You go. And then sometimes you can pause, so it gives it a little bit of a variation there. So I do use my nail a whole lot, and I've been talking about this a lot recently. People have been emailing me saying, how do you get that bright tone and then you get the kind of soft tone? It's my first finger for the soft tone and my nail for the bright tone. So one more thing. I'm always saying one more thing, aren't I? So it's hard to see what's happening there, so I'm going to slow it down. That's my first finger, and I'm using that part of my finger to strum. With my pinky, and I'm plucking with my first finger, or strumming, I guess you would say. Now I'm using my nail, just like you would with a regular guitar pick. Just pretend like you have a pick, but you don't. And I'm using this part of my nail on the downstroke. So the upstroke is my finger. Just pretend like you have a pick, but you don't. All right, one more thing. Wait, I already said that like 4 times. I keep on thinking more stuff, sorry. So, what do we do with the boogie on this? How do you add more to it? You don't want to do the same thing over and over and over, so I'm going to add the 5th fret. So we're on the 1 chord now, which is G. Everything so far has been G. So if you're playing guitar with me, you'll be playing a G note, and if the bass player is with me, he's going to be playing a G note, or a riff with the G note in the key of G. So we can do a John Lee Hooker style, stay on the 1, only have 1 chord in the entire song, which is G in this case. And every now and then, John Lee would go to the 4 chord, maybe once in an entire 8-minute song. Then he goes back to the 1 for the rest of it. So here's what might happen there if you're watching a John Lee Hooker show. There's your change right there. It's a straight up shuffle. Going to the 4 chord on the 5th fret and barring. Using my pinky 2 frets up. You can also use your 3rd finger. Now we go back to the first riff. Now John Lee didn't go to the 5 all that often. Sometimes he did, but most of the time he had 2 chords in his blues. honest with you, he didn't go to the 5 all that often, which would be... He probably would stay, more than likely, on the 1 and then go to the 5, or the 4, I'm sorry. So here's the 1, which is G. And there's your 4 chord. That's G, A, B, C. And back to the 1. He didn't go to the 5 all that often. And then back to the 4. And back to 1. Most of the time he did 1, 4. So he did a lot of the 1 chord, and then he'd go to the 4 chord kind of intermittently, oftentimes changing up the timing of it, and not necessarily playing 3 riffs and 3 riffs and 3 riffs, or 4 riffs and 4 riffs and 4 riffs. He might play 2 riffs and then 3 riffs and then 1 riff and then 4 riffs before he changed. He changed whenever he wanted to. As Lightning Hopkins used to say, lightning change when lightning change. Have fun with that. Keep those cards and letters coming. I'm really having a lot of fun with all these requests. And check out my website, jagshouse.com. Cigar box guitars for 20 years, over 4,000 sold. We'll see you next time.